Hi, I'm Melinda Gates. I wasn't always the woman you see today, the salon owner, the mentor, the one everyone waits weeks just to book with. No, it all began in the tiny back corner of a downtown hair salon with a rusted sign out front and shampoo bottles that seemed older than me. I had just finished beauty school, young and hopeful, scissors in hand and the world at my feet. It was a Tuesday. Funny how big things always start on ordinary days. I was sweeping up hair clippings when the bell over the door jingled. In walked this man with wild, curly hair and the kind of hesitant look people get when they're not sure if they're in the right place. He looked around, taking in the mirrors and dryers, the hum of casual gossip mixed with the sound of hair dryers. Then he asked, "Hey, you open for a walk-in?" I smiled and pointed to my chair. "Sure am. Come on over." He sat, and I flung the cape around his shoulders, cinching it with a tiny tug. "What are we doing today?" He chuckled, eyeing himself in the mirror. "Just make me look like I haven't been dragged through a hedge backwards." I laughed, picking up my shears. "I think I can manage that." As I combed through his unruly curls, we started talking. Turns out, we shared a love for classic rock and a mutual hatred for the pop music that had taken over the airwaves. He rolled his eyes at anything with auto-tune. I told him I couldn't stand bubblegum lyrics. We swapped favorites. Zeppelin, Floyd, the Stones. Just like that, the conversation flowed, easy and natural, like we'd known each other for years. When I finished, I turned the chair to face the mirror. He looked at himself and smiled. "You've got magic hands," he said. I smiled back. "You've got good hair. Makes my job easier." He left that day, but came back 2 weeks later, and then 2 weeks after that. Always timing it so it'd be me with the scissors. Soon, we were grabbing coffee after my shift. Coffee turned into dinner, and dinners into weekends together. Before I knew it, a year had flown by, and we were married. Nothing fancy, just a sweet little ceremony in his parents' backyard, homemade cake and all. We were young and broke, but full of love. Our honeymoon was 3 days in a lakeside cabin that smelled like damp wood and fish, but to us, it was paradise. We laughed through the mildew. We made it our own. And then came Michael. Oh, Michael. Our son, our miracle, our little firecracker who had his dad's stubborn chin and my curls. Money was tighter than ever, and I tried juggling motherhood with work. Some days, I didn't even brush my own hair, let alone style anyone else's. But James, my husband, he stepped up. He took the night feeds. He learned how to swaddle and change diapers like a pro. He even made bottles in the middle of the night without me having to nudge him. We were exhausted, but happy. Life was messy, but good. I loved my job, getting to meet people, hearing their stories while they sat in my chair. Everyone had something to say. Maybe I just had one of those faces, the kind strangers trust. James, meanwhile, climbed his corporate ladder step by step. We both worked hard, both dreamed big. And before we knew it, 30 years had flown by. I was 52 when the story really started to change. My little corner in the salon had become the spot everyone waited weeks to get into. James was now the top guy at his firm, with a corner office and a car that smelled too expensive. We'd moved into a house that echoed a little too much, especially now that Michael had grown up and gotten a place of his own. Life was calm, predictable, a little too quiet if I'm being honest. Then came Clara. It was raining that day. I remember because I'd just mopped the floor when she walked in, soaking wet from head to toe. Her coat dripped onto the tile, but she didn't even seem to notice. She had this lost look in her eyes, like she'd wandered in more by instinct than decision. "Rough day, huh?" I asked as she sat in my chair. "You could say that," she sighed, pulling off her soggy hat and revealing a mess of tangled wet hair. "Just broke up with my boyfriend. My heart feels like it's been through a meat grinder." "Well," I said, draping a towel around her shoulders, "you came to the right place. Let's do something new, something fresh." She looked up at me in the mirror. "Please, anything." As I worked on her hair, we talked. She was new in town, starting over, looking for her next step, but not quite sure how to take it. I gave her advice, not just hair advice, but life advice. By the time I handed her the mirror, she had a sleek new bob that softened her features and a flicker of hope in her eyes. "You know," she said, "I feel lighter. Thank you, Melinda, really." "Any time," I told her. "You know where to find me." Just then, the door chimed again. Michael walked in, surprising me. He looked around, then locked eyes with Clara. And oh boy, I recognized that look, that spark, the same one I'd felt all those years ago when James first sat in my chair. "Mom, who's this?" Michael asked, trying to play it cool. "This is Clara," I said, raising an eyebrow. "And don't even think about being smooth. You're not that subtle." Michael laughed and Clara blushed. The rest, as they say, was history. They started dating, fell hard, fell fast. And soon, they were married. Their wedding was a small whirlwind of joy. Michael and Clara glowed with that kind of new love that makes everyone else feel a little warmer just being near it. Clara was sweet, charming, and always knew how to bring a dish to dinner that made everyone ask for seconds. She blended into our family like she'd always been a part of it. James adored her too, or so I thought. We'd host them every Sunday. Clara would help me clean up while Michael and James lounged on the porch, talking football or work. She had this way of folding napkins that made them look like they belonged in a five-star restaurant, and she'd always say, "I just can't sit and let you do all the work, Melinda." I liked her, I really did. And James and I, well, we were still solid, or at least I believed we were. He was working more than ever, taking on extra trips and late meetings, but it didn't seem too unusual. He kept saying it was the busy season, that it was all for our future, our retirement. Then one morning I caught him digging through our closet. "What are you looking for?" I asked, watching him tug out an old duffel bag. "My gym clothes," he replied casually. "I joined a gym near the office. Can't let the young guys think I'm past my prime." I laughed, leaning against the doorframe. "Look at you, Mr. Fitness. Planning to get a six-pack?" He grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. That moment stuck with me. He wasn't the gym type. Never had been. A walk to the mailbox used to be a workout in his book. But suddenly he was hitting the gym 5 days a week, staying later at the office, and texting less when he traveled. Still, I shook it off. I told myself not to overthink it. After all, we were in a good place, right? But then came the little things. He started using cologne again, switched his phone password, took calls in the garage or outside. The warmth in his eyes when he looked at me, well, it dimmed. And that soft smile he used to save just for me, I hadn't seen it in months. I tried to talk to him. "Everything okay at work?" I asked one night while folding laundry. "Yeah, just the grind," he answered, not even looking up. The more I pushed the thought away, the louder it came back, like a slow, persistent hum in the back of my head. Then came the day I'll never forget. It was a regular Thursday. I had a longtime client, Marie, in my chair. She was bubbling over with stories about her latest vacation to Napa Valley with her girlfriends. "We got so much footage, Melinda, I swear we could make a movie," she laughed, pulling out her phone. She showed me video after video, wine tastings, scenery, restaurant meals. Then one clip changed everything. The camera was shaky, filming a cute little bistro. She was narrating her plate of pasta, but my eyes drifted to the background, to the couple sitting 2 tables over, locked in a kiss so deep it made the world fade. It was James and Clara. My breath hitched. My hands went cold. "Melinda, you okay?" Marie asked, lowering her phone. I swallowed hard and forced a smile. "Just thought I saw someone I knew. Can you send me that video?" She nodded, confused but compliant. I made it through the rest of the appointment like a robot. Smile, small talk, rinse, repeat. But my mind was frozen, replaying that image over and over again. I didn't confront James, not yet. Instead, I called Michael. "Can you come over, sweetheart? It's important," I said, trying to keep my voice from trembling. He arrived fast, worry etched on his face. "What's wrong?" I handed him the phone. "Just watch." He did. And I watched him as the realization hit, the color draining from his face. "Is that Dad and Clara?" I nodded, my eyes brimming with tears. We didn't have time to speak before the front door opened. James and Clara walked in, laughing about something, carefree, like they'd just returned from a comedy show, not from stabbing us both in the back. James opened his mouth to speak. "Guess who I ran into today?" Michael threw the phone on the coffee table, the video still playing. James's words faltered. His eyes moved to the screen, to our faces, to the undeniable truth. Clara froze, then smirked. She didn't even pretend to be ashamed. "I love him," she said boldly, pointing to James. "And honestly, Melinda, you're old. He doesn't want you anymore." Her words felt like fire. My hands shook. My breath caught in my throat. All those dinners, all those conversations. The woman I welcomed into my family had been sleeping with my husband behind my back and didn't even try to deny it. Michael's fury boiled over. "I'm done," he snapped, towering over James. "With both of you." Clara crossed her arms. You can't just kick me out. I'm entitled to half this apartment and alimony." Michael's laugh was sharp, full of scorn. "This apartment? It was mine before I ever met you. And as for alimony, you can forget it. Cheaters don't get rewarded." James tried to interject, his voice cold and eerily calm. "We need to talk about our assets, Melinda. 30 years of marriage. I want half." I looked at him, this man I'd loved for decades, and all I saw was greed, betrayal, audacity. "After what you've done," I said slowly, "you think you're entitled to anything?" That was just the beginning. The divorce was brutal. James twisted everything in court, painting himself the victim. Clara showed up, smug and polished, like she'd won some prize. She even whispered to me once outside the courthouse, "You're just an old woman. James wants someone young." Each word cut deeper than the last. But through it all, Michael stayed by my side. He was my anchor in the storm. I'd lost my marriage. I'd lost my daughter-in-law. I'd lost the life I thought I had. But I hadn't lost my son, and I hadn't lost myself, not entirely. The weeks after the divorce felt like walking through fog. Everything was muffled. My thoughts, my senses, even the smell of shampoo that usually brought comfort. My house, once full of laughter and Sunday dinners, now echoed with silence. The settlement meant we had to sell the house. 30 years of memories packed into boxes and folded into brown tape. I stood in the living room, looking at the indentations on the carpet where our old sofa used to sit, and whispered to myself, "Fresh start, Melinda." The real estate agent, Roger, was kind, middle-aged, soft-spoken, and gentle with his words. "You're doing the right thing," he told me as I signed the papers. "Something smaller, something for you." He was right. I bought a cozy 2-bedroom apartment closer to the city. Just enough space for me, a few plants, and the sunlight that poured through the windows in the late afternoon. On moving day, I sat on the floor between half-unpacked boxes and cried, not from grief, but from relief. I wasn't clinging to the past anymore. I was creating something new, but there was still a piece of me that needed rebuilding, my spirit. I'd been a hairdresser my whole life, but after everything, I felt like I had more to give. With some of the settlement money and every ounce of courage I could find, I decided to open my own salon. My own name, my own rules. Melinda's Elegance. It took months. I walked through over a dozen locations before I found the one. A little space on a busy street corner. It had good bones, a lot of light, and just enough room for 3 chairs and a small reception. "This is it," I said to Michael when he came to see it with me. He grinned. "I can already see the sign. You're gonna kill it, Mom." The renovations were a nightmare. Permits, paint colors, broken plumbing. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. With every coat of paint, every shelf I installed, I felt a little stronger. I wasn't just building a salon. I was building my life back. Opening day was a blur of hugs, flowers, and tears. Former clients came by. Neighbors peeked in. There was laughter and the smell of fresh coffee in the air. That little shop didn't just have my name. It had my heartbeat in its walls. 3 years passed in what felt like a blink. My salon flourished. It became more than I ever dreamed of. People waited weeks for an appointment. Word spread. But what filled me with the most pride wasn't the business. It was the community. The way clients chatted and confided. The way we laughed over hair dye disasters and cried over life's curveballs. Michael healed too. He met someone new, Lisa, a smart, thoughtful woman he met at a charity event. She had a quiet strength, the kind you could lean on without realizing. They married 2 years after his divorce. Then came the twins, a boy and a girl. Becoming a grandma, it lit up my whole world. There's something about tiny baby toes and that new baby smell that mends things you didn't even know were broken. On quiet evenings, I'd sit in the salon, the scent of hairspray still hanging in the air, and think about how far I'd come, from heartbreak to healing, from betrayed to blooming. But the past wasn't done with me just yet. One afternoon, while I was sweeping up after a long day, the phone rang. "Melinda's Elegance, this is Melinda," I answered, balancing the phone between my shoulder and ear. "Hi, Melinda, it's James." His voice hit me like ice down my spine. "I've been thinking," he said casually, as if we were catching up over coffee. "It's only fair that I get a piece of the salon. I mean, you started it with my money." There was a beat of silence before I could speak. "You want what now?" I said slowly, my voice calm even as my blood boiled. "Well, I was the primary earner for most of our marriage. You wouldn't have had the funds without me, and Clara wants to open her own salon, so—" I cut him off. "Let's meet and talk about it." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. I wasn't going to be blindsided again. I called Michael and told him everything. "No way!" he said, seething. "He has some nerve. We should dig into what he and Clara are really up to." We hired a private investigator. What came back was everything we needed, and more. Photos, dates, hotel receipts, Clara visibly pregnant, sneaking around with another man, James oblivious. And then I remembered something else. Something the doctor told us years ago when James got chicken pox as an adult. He'd been left infertile. I'd never told him. I didn't want to hurt him. But now it mattered. We scheduled the meeting at a downtown cafe. I arrived early and spotted them before they saw me. James trying too hard to look young. Clara smug as ever, cradling her baby bump like it was a trophy. "Thanks for coming," James said, pulling out a chair. "I'll get right to it," he continued. "We think a stake in your salon would be a great head start for Clara. You know, for our growing family." Clara smirked at me, already imagining herself in my shoes. I reached into my purse and slid a stack of photos across the table. James and Clara both leaned in. Their smiles vanished. "That's Clara," I said, "with her boyfriend, not once, not twice, but regularly. Hotels, parks, cars. And here's the best part." I paused, locking eyes with James. "Remember when you had chicken pox? You were 38. The doctor told me you'd never father a child again. I didn't tell you back then. Thought it would crush you." James went pale. Clara's hands started to shake. "You're lying," she snapped. "You're just trying to ruin us." James stared at her. "Is it true?" His voice was a whisper. "Is that baby even mine?" Clara stammered. "James, please, I can explain." But it was too late. James stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "We're done." People around us were staring. Clara burst into tears. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and said, "I think this meeting is over." I walked out into the sunlight, each step lighter than the one before. A few days later, I was back at the salon, sweeping up the last strands of the day, when the bell above the door jingled. Michael stepped inside, his smile wide and warm. He was carrying a bag of takeout and a bottle of ginger ale. "Hey, Mom, how's the Champion of Independence doing today?" he teased, setting the food on the counter. I laughed, handing him a broom. "Don't you dare call me that, but I won't lie. It does feel good." He helped me tidy up, just like old times, and for a moment, life felt light again. "So," he asked as he wiped down the front desk, "what's next for you?" I leaned on my broom, gazing around the salon, the place I had built with my bare hands, the space that had witnessed my tears, my healing, and now my pride. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately," I admitted. "I love the salon, but I want to do more. I want to give back." Michael looked up, thoughtful. "You've got so much wisdom, Mom. Maybe a mentorship program for young women just starting out?" I smiled. That's exactly what I was thinking. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. I started reaching out to local schools, community centers, and vocational programs. I set up workshops, basic styling, resume writing, confidence building. I wanted to be the woman I wish I'd had in my corner when I was 22 with a pair of scissors and a big dream. The response overwhelming. Girls lined up, eager to learn. They asked questions. They shared fears. They bloomed under encouragement. And me? I found a whole new purpose. I wasn't just fixing hair anymore. I was helping shape futures. One evening, after a particularly lively workshop, I sat alone in the salon. The windows glowed orange with sunset. The chairs were empty. The mirrors reflected back a woman I barely recognized, but in the best way. The phone rang. "Melinda's Elegance, this is Melinda." "Mom, it's me," Michael said. "How was the workshop?" "It was amazing," I said, feeling a smile spread across my face. "These girls, they're brilliant, strong, determined. I feel like I'm really making a difference." "You are," he replied. "You've come so far. I'm proud of you." After we hung up, I sat there for a while longer, letting the silence wrap around me like a warm blanket. The woman who once thought her life was over after betrayal, divorce, and heartbreak, she was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who had risen, like a phoenix from the ashes. But life has a funny way of circling back around. A few months later, I ran into Clara at a grocery store. She looked tired, worn down, alone. She was pushing a stroller with a sleepy baby inside. Our eyes met. She froze. For a moment, I expected her to smirk or make some passive-aggressive comment, but instead she said something I never anticipated. "I'm sorry, Melinda." Her voice was small, fragile. "I don't expect forgiveness. I thought James would stay, but he's gone. Left a few months after everything came out, said he needed space." I nodded slowly, unsure of what to say. She looked down at her child. "He doesn't even visit." The old me might have lashed out, might have said something sharp, but I wasn't that woman anymore. I hope you find your own strength, I said softly. Then I walked away. I didn't hate her, not anymore, pity maybe, but not hate. Because I knew now, true strength wasn't about holding on to pain. It was about letting go of it. Months passed. Seasons changed. My program expanded. I partnered with shelters and job centers. I even gave talks at conferences telling my story not with shame, but with pride. One day, a young woman in one of my mentorship classes pulled me aside after a session. "Miss Melinda," she said, her eyes wide and honest, "you make me believe I can actually do this. Like, build something, be someone." I smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You already are someone. You just haven't realized how incredible you are yet." That's the legacy I want to leave. Not just a salon, not just a successful business, but a ripple, a wave, a movement of women helping women, lifting each other up from the trenches and cheering each other on as they rise. Because I didn't just survive, I thrived. And now it's my turn to pass that light forward. So, if you're listening to my story right now, and you're sitting in your own moment of heartbreak, betrayal, or loneliness, listen to me carefully. This is not the end. It might feel like it, but it's not. You can rise, you can rebuild, and one day you'll look back and realize the worst thing that ever happened to you turned out to be the beginning of the best chapter of your life, just like it was for me. My name is Melinda Gates, and I'm just getting started.